Hi, yes, I'm calling for medical.
Yes, of course. Just hold on in the line, please. May I know regarding what it is so I can advise the team?
Yes, COVID-19 symptoms. Hi everyone, what is up? My name is Jordan and this is JJ Cruz. Thank you so much for taking a chance and clicking the thumbnail today to hear about this woeful tale of going into isolation on a cruise ship. That is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to look at what exactly happens if you have to go into isolation on a cruise ship, specifically on a celebrity cruise ship. But before we get into that, I do want to invite you to join us on this journey. We are on the road to 30,000 subscribers, and we would love for all of you to be on that journey with us. We have a lot of exciting trips coming up. We're actually currently quarantining at home because we are getting ready to sail to Iceland in August, 24 nights. If you want to follow along with that journey, definitely subscribe to the channel. And if you like this video and others on our channel, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. It helps us greatly. It is completely free to you. And it's just a great way to support your favorite YouTubers. I know that we've done a lot more of these story times here on our channel recently, and that's because we've been traveling so much this year. We spent 70 nights in Europe. We've hosted 3 amazing group cruises, and now that we are home for a few weeks, we sat down to talk about everything that had happened and processed through all of these different experiences that we've had on cruise ships and thought that we need to bring them to the channel. Not only because it provides a lot of information to you about certain scenarios that we have found ourselves in, these are just important things to know if you're going to be traveling here in the year of 2022. Now, my isolation experience did happen on the Celebrity Edge. I'm going to walk you through every single step of the way in terms of how the medical team handled me, the type of treatment that I got on board, and overall just what happened when this unexpected set of symptoms popped up within my body. Now, we sailed on the Celebrity Edge back in April. It was a 14-day voyage from Fort Lauderdale, Florida to Rome. This was our first time trying our transatlantic. If you missed out on that transatlantic review, you'll definitely want to check it out. We still stand by that this was one of the best cruises we have ever taken, and we can't get back on another transatlantic fast enough. But there was something that happened on day 11 that did put a little bit of a damper on our time. Now, we had spent several days at sea. We had had one stop in Madeira, Portugal. That's a small island off of the coast of Portugal. But other than that, we were on the ship the entire time. The evening of night 10, I went to sleep. We had had another wonderful day aboard the ship with a lot of new friends that we had met while we were on board. And I fell asleep for about 2 to 3 hours, and then I woke up in the middle of the night with severe chills. I knew immediately that I had a fever. I didn't have any other symptoms, but I was definitely chilling. And I laid there. I remember looking at the clock. It was 4 a.m. And I was just thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I have COVID. Of course, I thought that I had COVID because that was what people were starting to come down with. There was about 10 cases on board at the time that we knew of. And I figured that I was about to be case number 11. Well, I laid there because I knew the medical facility didn't open until 8 a.m. I woke Jared up about 7:30 a.m. and this is where the story gets a little bit dramatic. I woke him up because I was crying quite loudly in the room. Now, I'll tell you at the very end what was so upsetting to me about the scenario, but in general, it's upsetting to be sick when you're on your vacation or you are traveling, especially going one way across the sea to another country. Jared woke up and immediately panicked. He thought, oh my gosh, what's happened? You know, did you hear from someone back home? Has something happened to someone we love? And I said, no, I have a fever. Without a beat, he said, okay, we're going to call medical and everything is going to be fine. Jared is definitely someone that evens me out. He's not quite as emotional as I am. And he reacted in the perfect way of just knowing exactly what I needed in that moment for someone to calm me down and help me understand that no matter what happens, we're going to be fine. 8 a.m. rolls around. We call down to the medical facility. They say, okay, anyone that is experiencing COVID symptoms does need to come down to the medical center. We are now handling all patients down here in the medical center. So we go down, we sit in a couple of chairs that are kind of isolated away from the rest of the waiting room. We see people kind of coming in and out. Finally, they call my name. They bring me immediately back to a room that I would be in for the next 2 hours. I sat there for about 15 minutes just waiting on a nurse to come and see me. A nurse came in. She could tell I was upset. So she was also kind of trying to, well, calm me down a bit. She took my vital signs. Everything seemed fine. And then she took my temperature. And of course, I had a fever of 102.5. This was not surprising to me. Like I said, I had been up chilling all night. I know what it's like to have a fever. And I knew that I was obviously sick. She explained to me that most likely this was COVID because my fever fell in line with the symptoms of the current variant, and that they were going to do a rapid PCR test on me and then tell me the results right afterwards. And I asked, okay, well, what happens after that? And she said, well, we'll talk about that once we get the results back. She performed the test and then left the room and told me that she wouldn't be back for about an hour. That was the longest hour of my life, just because I was sitting back there. I didn't know what was happening. I wasn't with Jared because they immediately separated us. And I just wasn't sure what the next steps were going to be. Now, I know that most ships have COVID wards or a set of rooms where there are no guests staying that you would get moved to. And so I was assuming I would get moved down to one of the lower decks where the other COVID patients were. But then she opened up the door after an hour and came in and let me know that my test was negative. Now, I was relieved and also confused because I thought, oh, this is very weird. I must have some other type of bug, but I'm not exactly sure what I could have because I've been on this ship for most of the time, with the exception of stepping out for about 6 hours in Madeira. She then explained to me what was going to happen next. She said that I needed to go back up to my room and that I needed to isolate for the next 24 hours, that I had a medical appointment at the same time the next day, so 8 a.m. the following day. That would be the next time that I would be allowed to leave the room, come back down for another test to confirm that I was negative for COVID. She also explained that Jared could stay in the room with me and he was also free to kind of go about the ship. I left that room feeling a little bit more positive than I had before. Jared was still in the waiting room. We went back to the room together. I explained that what the process was going to be, and he said, okay, we're both going to be fine. When this happens, they do give you unlimited room service for free, including anything that you would like from the main dining rooms. So that evening, when it came time for dinner, we were able to order from the main dining rooms whatever food we wanted. They brought it up to us really quickly. It was nice. It was hot. We ate on the bed. We watched a few movies. And for the most part, we just relaxed. About midnight that night, my fever actually broke. Keep in mind, I had no other symptoms at the time. So this fever that was hovering around 102 all day long broke, and I got a really good night's sleep. I woke up at 8 a.m. the next morning for my appointment, went down to the medical facility. The nurse came in, she took the test, and she said to me, I will never forget this. She said, now keep in mind, there are other illnesses and viruses that are going on in the world, and it is possible that you could have just had, another 24-hour flu. She then took my test to go process it and left the room and immediately went into the doctor's office, which was right next to the room that I was in, and said, wow, I just can't believe that this guy doesn't have COVID. This is so strange that he doesn't have COVID, but he spiked another random fever. That just cracked me up because she did such a good job at trying to calm me down and assure me that, people do get other illnesses. I think people just don't go to the medical facility when they do get these other random illnesses. An hour passed. I waited, again, another very long hour for me in the medical facility. The nurse came back in. She said, great news, you're negative again. This means that you can come out of isolation as long as you have no other symptoms and you can do whatever you want. I spent about the next 6 to 8 hours back in my room. First off, I had work that I had to do. We were working from the ship. Secondly, I wanted to be good and sure that my symptoms didn't return, and I really did feel back to normal before going back out on the ship. I did end up going back out on the ship later in the day. I felt fine. I also felt good because I had to take another test the following day because this was right before we had gotten invited to go on to the Celebrity Beyond cruise ship. So the next day I woke up, took another PCR test, came back negative. So I had 3 days with 3 PCR tests in a row. I felt very confident that I did not have COVID. The medical team, when they saw me the next day, they asked if I was still feeling good. I said, yep, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling totally back to normal. And then I finished out the rest of the 14-day cruise in style. I'm sure you want to know, why was I so emotional and upset at the very beginning of this process? And that was because I had just spent 11 days making a lot of new friends, being super social on the ship, and possibly exposing a lot of people to COVID as they were beginning their Europe vacation. Because keep in mind, this was a one-way voyage to Rome, and most people that we were sailing with were staying in Rome or going to different parts of Europe after this cruise. I was devastated that I potentially ruined someone's vacation or someone's trip that they had looked forward to for so long. We also had friends on the ship, and I had sat next to one of their grandfathers at the show the night before. So I just, in my mind, could not stop thinking of all of the people that I potentially exposed to COVID. And I just felt horrible. Jared and I have tried to be so responsible during this pandemic. We've tried to do all the right things, and we've tried to keep ourselves and, more importantly, other people safe. And I just kept thinking to myself, what have I done? Thankfully, we know now that I didn't have COVID in the first place. I had some other random 24-hour bug, and no one else in the group of people that I had been hanging out with all week ended up getting sick. That is the thing that I am most thankful for. Overall, Celebrity did a great job of taking care of me, making sure that I had plenty of food, plenty of entertainment in the room, and it was not that bad of an experience. Of course, I'm sure I would have a different tale to tell if I did end up testing positive for COVID and had to go into the COVID room, but I think that this is just great information to know in case you do come down feeling ill and having to go to the medical center during a cruise. Because I had a symptom of COVID, I was not charged any money in the medical facility. Everything was taken care of by the ship. And a lot of people want to know, Jordan, why would you go to the medical facility in the first place? And that was because I wanted to make sure that I was doing my part in not spreading COVID beyond what I potentially already had. I was clearly sick. It wasn't a question in my mind. It wasn't a game of, oh my gosh, could this be COVID? Could it not be COVID? I knew that I had symptoms. I knew that I was not feeling well. And I knew that I needed to go down to the medical facility to get some answers. That is the story for today. Tell me in the comments what you think of this situation. If you thought Celebrity did me right, or if you feel like they should have done something different. Also, what has been your experience on cruise ships in isolation? I know that several of you have reached out to us just discussing your experience and talking through what has happened to you on cruise ships. We love for the comments to be a resource to other people, and we want to hear from you, your thoughts on today's video. Well, that is it for today. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us. And until next time, see ya.